Mike Dilks, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thank you so much.
So let's start out with when and where did you get bit by the police bug?
So pretty, I didn't honestly. I started out. I grew up in New Jersey, South Jersey, and outside of like any city area, people think Jersey, Jersey Shore. I grew up where they grew tomatoes and corn and all that cool stuff. So I didn't see cops growing up. We didn't play cops and robbers. I never saw cops. Never interacted with cops. We just went about our life. And eventually, I moved to Florida, and I started playing softball when I was like 17, 18, kind of not sure what I was going to do with my life. And I was on a team that my mom had known a bunch of doctors and people, and I was a really good athlete. So, like, hey, go play with this men's league. So I'm playing for half of the season, and I didn't do anything crazy, but I smoked some weed back then. I did. I haven't since, but so I'm, getting smoking a little weed, all that. So one day somebody goes to me, hey man, how do you like playing softball with the chief of police? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, the guy Jim on your team is the chief of the Vero Beach Police Department. And I'm like, he's the what? I'm like, I had no idea. And I'm like playing softball with the chief of police, kind of smelling like weed probably at the games, and
Probably,
like
yeah.
no clue. Yeah, no clue that I'm doing that. So I I obviously stopped. I'm like, all right, I better not do that anymore. And we played like 2 seasons together and became, we champions and close. And he said to me, hey man, I think you're a really good kid. He's like, I'm the chief of police. He's like, I think you would be a good cop. So that was like 95-ish. So I interviewed, no experience, GED, high school dropout, and they basically said, we need you to get some more life experience. So he told
Sure.
me that day, you go join the United States Army, come back, I'll hire you. And he kept his word.
Wow. Now, when they did the backgrounds, the whole like weed smoking thing, that was a huge deal
It
when
was.
I joined. It was 1995 when I got on the job, and I was on the waiting list for 4 years. Back then, obviously, the competition was fierce. It was crazy. But I'll
Hmm.
never forget my final interview with the sergeant from backgrounds. And, he was a big tough guy, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, so I see you went to University of Wisconsin Whitewater. I'm like, yes, sir. Big party school, isn't it? And I'm like, yes, it is, sir. And he's like, so you said that you never even tried marijuana? I'm like, no, sir. If I find out, so he's just reading me the riot act. If you're lying to me, he says, you can come clean right now. Otherwise, I find out I'm shit canning you right, then and there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I was too scared of my mom. My mom is like four
Yeah.
foot nine, 100 pound soaking wet little Irish woman that, is meaner than a junkyard dog. I didn't, I was scared to death of it. And did all my friends, most of them, yeah. And I said, yeah, you could. He said, well, why? Why didn't you even try it? And I said, I was working full time. I was going to college full time. I was partying extra full time. My best friends were nicotine. I was chain smoking Camel Straights, drinking Jack Daniels like it was water. I was living on nicotine, caffeine, and, and adrenaline, I guess. And I was like a workout fiend. And
Yeah.
I said, I didn't want to put anything extra in there. I literally thought it would like kill me because all this other stuff was going on. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not. Then
Yeah.
I found out that I'm in the academy, and we're all shooting the shit one time at lunch, and one guy was like, "Yeah, this is the only place that would hire me." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I put on my application that I tried marijuana and I tried cocaine." And I'm like, "What? Cocaine?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "I did about 5 or 6 times." And I was like, and here I am scared to death because I had one speeding ticket, when I was 16 years old and I was a dumbass kid. Just the stuff that goes into your head, just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So you go into the army. Was that like right after high school? You were like 17, 18 years old?
No, I bounced around when I was doing that, and I was doing, I was kind of on that in betweener where if I would have stayed in town, I probably would have ended up doing some dumb things and not doing what I ended up doing. So I was kind of in between, and I was actually a Marine Corps recruiter first, and they put me through, and they're like, "Do you have a GED?" They're very low on taking people in the Marine Corps with GEDs. There's only like two a month. So from that, the Army recruiter came by one day, and it was March of '96, and he literally picked me up. I didn't even tell my mom or anybody. He drove me to Miami, and I enlisted like without telling anybody. I went down, did the maps, enlisted, and I had a leave date in like 3 weeks. So I walked into my house. My mom thought I was out work somewhere.
Yeah.
I walked in at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat down the papers on the table. I said, I joined the Army. And she's like, you did what? I said, I joined the Army. She's like, what kind of job is it? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I was like, they showed me some video. There's guys flying at airplanes and shooting guns. And she's like, you don't even like heights. You're scared to get on the roof. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, this is it. This is the video. I mean, I watched the coolest infantry video ever. And I was like, shit, I'll do that. So I had like a 3 week turnaround. I walked in and joined the Army in April 11th, 1996.
How long did you sign up for?
So
What?
I did 3 years. It was weird because most of the commitments were four, and
Yeah,
nobody
that's
had
what I was
really
just
heard
gonna
of a
say.
3 year. I don't know why. I remember looking at my paperwork, and on the paperwork it said Op 4, which I ended up in Fort Polk, Louisiana, as Op 4, opposing forces. And I don't know that it was everybody else that did four did three in Fort Polk with me, and then went to Korea. For some reason, mine was a 3 year. I don't know if it's GED. I don't know what it was, but I did 3 years, and re-enlistment came up, and I came back home and talked to them, and they're like, we'll keep our word. We'll hire you. So I got out in like a little early March of '99, and he hired me that month when I got back.
Did you go to Benning for basic?
Yeah, I went to Bedding for basic and airborne. Then I was in Fort Polk. I went to Fort Drum for miserable Fort Drum in January of '98 for air assault school. Snowing crazy. I did like, we did. I spent a lot of time in the woods for a non-war time. Obviously, it was after Desert Storm, before 9/11. But I was a training unit, so every
Yeah.
month for 2 weeks, 82nd, 101st, 25th, 10th Mountain, they all came in for our simulated war for a month. So for 2 weeks of every month, I spent out in the woods fighting in like a three-man unit,
Wow.
opposing the Americans in like a high-speed like laser tag game. That was really cool. It was a really cool job.
Yeah.
And
My
so we've
son,
trained our
my son was a Cav Scout. He was 10th Mountain,
yeah. No.
and he was
So
stationed at Fort Polk. And I went down there a few times, and my first thought was, "What a shithole! Oh my
it's
God,
terrible. It was
that
terrible.
place is horrible."
Yeah. They
Oh,
had just built a Walmart, the first Walmart anywhere near there in 1996 when I got there. And it was like there was no open container laws. You could buy alcohol and like pull up to a drive-through and buy buy beer and buy
what
mixed beer.
could
It
go
was
wrong?
oh, it was terrible, man. It was crazy. And then the town was dry on Sundays, but the post wasn't. So all the freaking homeless and vagrants would like line up right at the edge of the post at like the gas station, and they'd be offering you money to like give me a six pack, give me a six pack.
Oh
Like
my
it was
God.
crazy. It's a crazy place to live.
Yeah, my son wound up being a sergeant, and just him talking about the privates that were like they would bring the local strippers
Oh
to
yeah,
like the formal like dance and all this other stuff, and he's like,
Pegasus Lounge was the name of it.
Yep. And he's like,
Yep.
they'd be like, I'm gonna marry her. And it's
Oh
like,
God.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So the two
Yeah. I
big
remember the
mistakes
open.
they'd make is trying to marry a stripper and buying a very expensive car. There's a local car dealership that would
Yeah.
just
Two
rape
things military
soldiers.
guys do very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did it at Benning too. Like guys got to have basic training in Benning. And I remember watching dudes go, they after 2, 3 months in basic training, they've accumulated what they think is a lot of money, like
Right.
$2,800 over 3 months, and then they would go right downtown to Benning to one of those fake massage parlor freaking stripper joints and
Yep.
blow all of it and walk out with nothing but a frown. And I'm like, you
Ah,
guys are fucking, you guys are nuts, man. So yeah, it was they're notorious for that.
yes. So do you think it was a help or a hindrance being in the military before becoming a cop?
I think it helped me grow up and learn stability, learn accountability, learn all the stuff you learn in the military. There's no leeway. You have to listen. But it was a huge disappointment when I realized law enforcement, which you think they say quasi-military or military based or anything. There's nothing similar when it comes to military procedure and police procedure. In the military, you know what you're doing 6 months from now on a Tuesday. It's on the calendar. You're doing it. This is your way you're going to live. The police world was wide open, and I
Right.
was very disappointed in the lack of leadership and accountability that I thought I was going to follow from the military to the
Mm.
police world. So it was a good, obviously, it was good to have it, but it really was a letdown when I saw that policing was so different and not the same that I thought it was going to be based on the military.
Well, I remember filling out the application for Milwaukee. This is before, the interwebs, you did it by hand. And in bold letters, this is a quasi-military organization. And they're like, you will wear a uniform, you will salute, you will, your shoes have to be shined, blah, 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 blah. And the academy was run like that. I mean, I was saluting everything but the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
You're just that's just
Yeah.
yeah, yes sir, yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. And yeah, if you did something stupid, you're on your face and you're doing push-ups. Or you're going to be running a whole lot. Or whatever the case may
Yes.
be. But I have heard that they've done away with most of that. It's more of an adult learning environment, and I'm like,
Yeah. It's all
it's
soft now, man.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm just shocked that they let them eat and drink in the classroom. They have these huge water bottles. They've got like snacks, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
we couldn't drink
It's a
water.
different world, man.
We couldn't drink
No, it's a
water.
different world.
It's like they gave you 2 minutes. There was 43 of us. Literally 2 minutes of like water in, water out. Be back in the classroom in two
Hmm.
minutes. So there was like two water fountains. And you're just like,
Yep.
fuck it. I'm just gonna be dehydrated the rest of the day, whatever. It's just the way it is. So what
Yeah.
was your academy experience? What did the academy look like for you?
Again, a huge letdown. So I came out of 11 Bravo Airborne, like high speed. I come out 160 pounds. I could run a like 550 mile. I was in great
Wow.
shape. And I go in the academy and they went through and they found the military guys. Anybody military was like squad leader, team leader, platoon leader. So they put us all in. I was a squad leader. And then they had us lead PT. And I'll never forget, like, our track was not even a quarter mile. The track outside the academy was like a shortened piece of asphalt that was like under a quarter mile. It was like 300 meters. And we, go out and get them cadence and run. And they did the military stuff, the marching, and we did all that to start the academy. It wasn't as strict as you're saying, but it was, they were yelling at us and they were getting us
Yeah.
ready, and it was very easy for me. But a lot of these people were civilians. There was only about 25 people in my class. We got out and we go to run, and some dude's like, "I'm not running." And I'm like, "The
What?
fuck does this guy mean? He's not running." Like, I'm like, "What?" So we start running, and he was an entitled kid. His dad was just had lost the reelection for sheriff, and I think he was
Oh,
on his way out.
okay.
And but he wanted to be, way out of shape. Him and a couple others, they just didn't run. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm 3 months out of basic, 3 months out of the military in an infantry unit, and I'm like, what do you fucking mean you don't want to run? Like, you can't. Like, I didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand it. So I remember being really hard on him. He held it against me the rest of my life. There was other times later on in my career where I crossed paths with his dad, and him and his dad took shots at me here and there, all because this dude didn't want to run and didn't want to be in shape, and I didn't understand the concept. Didn't make sense to me at that point. So it was it was nothing like you guys were doing. We had uniforms, we had inspections, boots had to be signed, you had to be on time. We didn't have food in the classroom. We got to go to lunch, but it was from 8 to 5. It was pretty strict, and then you left and came back. So it was decent. It's way better than it is now. It was a lot more structured and a lot more up on your shit than it is now.
Yeah, I guess, we did call cadence when we're doing like forced runs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And I guess they don't do it anymore. Somebody complained, and I'm like, you know what? It's two things. It's for me, it helped me breathe. It's like, I read something, I forget when. It's like calling cadence when you're running actually helps you run. It helps you breathe when
yeah,
you're
and it takes
actually
your
doing
mind
it.
off everything too. Like, it
That's
gives your
exactly
brain something
right.
to do. Like, I'm a big runner, and I need something to stimulate my brain, and I can keep going. But that's what it's for. And
Yeah, but they did away with that.
yeah,
They
we're
did.
soft now.
Yeah,
There's bad words
it's
in cadence. You can't say those.
but now the state has qualifications where, yeah, I don't know what the push-ups and sit-ups are. I mean, it's a very, very low number. And the run is a mile and a half, and they give you, I think, 16 or 17 minutes to do a mile and a half.
I can walk that.
And I
Yeah.
was like, it was 12 minutes when I was in the academy. And I'm not a runner. I love to lift. I'll do push-ups and sit-ups till I always scored way over 100 points. I always maxed out on push-ups, sit-ups. I'll do jumping jacks and push-ups and burpees till the cows come home. But the run, oh man, I hated that. I would just dread it. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I could do this, but I did it in
12 minutes is flying, man. 12
my
minutes is a
last
good
time was
that's a good
11 and
pace.
a half. And
That's
I'm
good.
like, if I die here on the pavement today, I don't care. I need this job. That's what it
Yeah.
boiled down to. I was
And
selling
and here's what's
cars.
funny. You talk about that. 12 minutes at your academy is now 12 minutes for our SWAT team. And
Really?
mile and a half, whatever, is like 18 minutes. You know, it's not even close. But our SWAT team was 12 minutes when I made it. So you can see the difference in how the standard used to be 12 minutes for everybody. Now it's only for the SWAT guys.
Yeah, like our SWAT. Well, when I first started, the SWAT team was called the Tactical Enforcement Unit. It still is. And they claim they're the oldest like SWAT team in the nation. I think LAPD claims they're the oldest as well, or whatever. Who cares? You know, whatever. But it was mostly veterans, not all, but most of them were vets. And there were no PT qualifications whatsoever. It was,
Mm.
do you bowl together? Do you play darts together? I mean, it was a good old boys,
Yeah.
situation. There were some guys in
Yeah.
there that were high speed operators. We had guys that were in the NFL that, played in the NFL. They were studs, beyond studly. And then you had the guys with the big old Wisconsin beer guts that were drinking too much beer and eating too many, cheese curds. And, they're all together. And I'm like, hmm. But whatever. I'm not throwing stones.
Yeah.
But now
No,
they actually do have standards. I mean,
good.
they have a mile and a half run. They have to do it in 14 minutes. So, and
It's
that's for
better.
everybody, for men, women. They only have like one gal on there, I think. You know, that could actually pass the PT, and she's a very good athlete, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So your academy, how long did that last?
I went from, I want to say like September to February. September to February. So September, October, November, December, January, like five, like almost 6 months. It was just with the
Okay.
time off, it was just under 6 months.
Yeah, that's what ours was too. And they could have done it in 4 months, but I think they have to justify their existence. So,
I think they've ours have cut it down more, but ours was
okay.
a little longer back then. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was
So I don't know. It is what it is. I grew to love it because this was the first time I ever had a job that I worked Monday through Friday. I had weekends off. I thought I died and went to heaven. If you worked overtime, you got paid for overtime.
oh yeah,
Just I never had, and you had good benefits. I never had good health insurance ever. I was working in restaurants. I was selling cars. I was bartending. Just it was a foreign thing to me. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And they kept on saying, don't get used to this. This Monday
yeah.
through Friday day shift thing. You're it could be
Not gonna
20
be
years
forever.
before you see anything that resembles day shift kids. So it's like, all right,
Yeah,
all right. Now, was that, I know in Florida it's a little bit different. You guys have, it was more of a tech school kind of thing for your academies, right?
yeah. Colleges, so different colleges, and that's one of the things I don't like is I know you guys are standard, and like FHP is standard down here, and there's other states it's wide open. So you could go to like Indian River Academy is a close to Indian River State College Academy is where I went, and it's kind of a little soft. I went to Palm Beach County late in my career to take a couple advanced classes, and when I saw their academy, they were still drilling. They had uniforms. They were yelling at them. They were getting in their shit, and I was like, oh, I like this. Indian River kind of backed down. So unfortunately, it's run locally by different colleges, and you could get totally different treatment at different places, which again creates. I mean, I don't like it being so different. Should be much more standard. Now the qualifications are standard, but then the way they're taught are different. So
Mm.
I don't like it. I would prefer a state academy, like something like you guys had,
Yeah, for
or
us,
a in-house like for everybody.
yeah, we had in-house. It's, the city of Milwaukee and the sheriffs have their own completely different academies.
Yeah, I like that.
And the little municipalities sometimes would go through our academy, and then like the city of Madison and the state patrol have their own. But other than that, then it's like different tech vocational schools that have
Yeah,
their academies.
yeah. It's just to me. You're teaching something that is pretty standard, which is the law and the statutes
Right.
and the
Yeah.
and the. But then you're teaching it very lax at one academy and very strict at another, and then these guys go work together, and it's like you could tell to me, you could tell who came from which academies. And if they came from a different area, you'd be like, all right, this guy's already got it figured out pretty quick and this guy doesn't. So that's unfortunate to me that that happens. I'd like to see more standardized training
Yeah.
across the
I mean,
board.
our academy was a all girls high school. Yeah, an all girls Catholic high school, and the city bought it from the church in the 60s. Yeah, it was built in the 60s. So there's still like stained glass. There's a chapel. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It gave it some character. I mean, a lot of band-aids, a lot of, the range was in the basement and, it was okay, but then you go to an academy, I went up to the Fox River Academy, and it's a vocational school, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice. It was only like 5 years old, and everything was state of the art. They have a small city behind the academy, like
We did
a
too.
full
No,
size gas
yeah.
station, a full
Yeah,
size
we have all that.
motel. But
Mhm.
I mean, they have a rail car like on its side. They have two, not one, but two jets in the back. The FBI's HURT team does their training
Okay.
there. Like about 4 times a year, they go in for like close quarters, whatever. And I had the tour, and I ran like a little academy for writers, for crime writers, with a buddy of mine that was an instructor there. And every day I'd go there, I'm like, man, this is so nice. I'm in awe. This wow. But you know what though? Some of the best cops came out of Milwaukee though too. Out of some of the
Yeah.
not very humble beginnings. Let's just say that. So, can you give us a snapshot of your law enforcement career?
So I started at the local police department. They sponsored me through that academy. I spent like 3 years there, and as I started to see, it was very small, micromanaged, and not much you could
Like,
really
how many
do.
members?
There was like 45, 43, and
Okay.
four zones, 5 zones, a sergeant, lieutenant, and very controlled from within. Like you had to ask to go to the bathroom. If you crossed the tracks, you had to ask to go to the station.
Wow.
We went to every EMS call, every single
You went
EMS
to
call.
EMS calls?
They still do. Grandma's got a fever. Somebody's got a
Oh,
cough. Like every single EMS call, we got cops going to it, and I'm just like, oh my god,
why? What was their justification for
it's
that?
public service, man. I mean, now that I'm not there anywhere anymore, I can tell you it's a sham. They're not they're micromanaged so many generations of micromanaging that it's always been that way, and they've never broken the
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 cycle.
cycle of it's always
Yeah.
done that way. So they can't really tell you why, but they claim it's because we provide service to everybody. We care. Like, no, stop going to that. Go put bad guys in jail. So I
Right.
saw right away after 2 or 3 years, I'm like, I can't do this. And I would scan the sheriff's office and I'd hear them chasing cars and biting people and all. And I'm like, I got to go do this. So I started bumping into the guys when I could see them on the outskirts of the city. I started easing my way right to that very edge where the hood started in the county and where we were at. And I started stopping a lot of cars coming from out of the county. And eventually I sat with one guy who left before me and went over there. And he was like, dude, he's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. So December of '04, I quit the city, went to the sheriff's office, and then that's where my like real career took off.
See, that's funny because in Wisconsin, it's kind of the opposite. You go to Milwaukee, say, that's the biggest city in the state, and like the sheriffs, they're in charge of the airport, they're in charge of the courts, in the jail, and they do the freeway. We don't do the freeway. And the high speed stuff is all the city coppers. So it's
Yeah,
the
it's
polar
different down
opposite.
here. Yeah, well, there's some high speed cities down here, but we don't. Sheriffs don't just do that. I know in Jersey where I grew up too, people like sheriff is just like civil processes,
Yeah.
evictions, and all that. So our version, I would equate like the deputies here to like the state police in like New Jersey and all those big states where they have really high speed state police. We don't do that. We do the highway, but that was where our highway patrol comes in. But highway patrol here doesn't do any crime. They just do tickets,
And
crashes,
accidents.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So we were like the big guys when you came to the sheriff's office. Went into the cities, and I immediately was like, "This is the greatest thing I ever did." Like the doors opened. I started working in the hood. Like I started getting into narcotics. So I knew right away, like I want to be a dope cop. So that's where I kind of transitioned my career after a year and a half at the sheriff's office. I went into narcotics.
Well, it's funny how, you start out and you don't really know what you want to do. And then, you kind of gravitate towards something. You had cops that they love to chase cars. They love stolen cars. We had guys every night. They got at least one or two stolen cars, and then, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what's going to be inside of it. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, okay. You can really open up a can of worms with that. And then you had guys that love going to crashes, to accidents. And I'm like, why? This sucks. But that was your road to being a motorcycle cop. I mean, I
Yeah.
love bikes. I've been riding since I was 16. And I thought, yeah, that'd be really neat. And I'm like, what do? You do drunk drivers, you do accidents, and you write out tickets. And I'm like, those are the three things I absolutely hate doing. So
No,
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 it's not worth the big boots and the leather jacket. It just isn't.
no,
Just
no. I
no.
never got into any of that.
Yeah. So you saw that, hey, I want to do drug enforcement. Why do you think
Yeah.
that was so appealing to you?
So yeah, I get I get there in '04 and but early '05. The crack epidemic is rampant.
Oh yeah.
So all I'm doing is trolling pre cell phone, all that stuff. We're trolling the hood, and all you do is look for a white guy. If you find a white guy driving through the hood,
Absolutely.
you know what he's doing. And the rush of the cat and mouse game and the setting up, Nextel surveillance with your partner, and you're sneaking around on foot, and we're watching these houses, and I just loved it. I love the back and forth when you pull the crackhead over and he's trying to tell you, "Oh, I'm here visiting my friend," and you're like, "Who's your friend?" Just that whole cat and mouse game of like just the interactions and the drugs and the arrests, and I immediately was like, this is it. And I did like a year and a half in the hood, and then in June of 2006, one of the narcotics they had a rollover, and there was openings in the narcotics unit, and I got transferred and went into like Vice Narcotics.
So you were playing reindeer games as a sheriff's deputy, but you were probably also taking just like normal calls for service
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
doing
I
all
mean,
that as well.
tried to dodge them, but yeah, we were. I mean, we are taking disturbances, and we're working a zone that was probably 85%, 90% black,
Okay.
and that's where I worked my first 2 years. And it was, hood fights at the gas station and all that
Yeah.
garbage, and then the white guys coming in, getting their cars, trading their cars for crack, getting robbed. So it was all that. So we're handling those, and then the free time it was traffic, but it was just that lifestyle. It was so fast paced, and it was like you look down, and you're like, damn, my shift's over. Like I've been to the jail twice today. Like
Yeah.
I'm done. Like it was just I loved that excitement of it was never like sitting under a tree just going, It was like always something was going on, and the days just flew by, and I was like, I love it. I loved it.
That's cool. Now, when you transitioned over to the sheriff's department, did you have to go through any type of academy or training
No,
or
no,
what?
lateral. I was on FTO for like 2 weeks. They came over, everything's the same. It's the same county. I had to learn their CAD system. I had to
Yeah.
learn their reports. So back then, we called the reports in on the phone. Actually, it was called Care, and we just
Oh, wow.
called and talked. And some lady dictated it. You had a little
Yeah.
card that you read off of, and then we just, the MDTs had just come around, so we were able to run like driver's license and NCIC. But that was it. I would literally was on. I had 3.5 years experience when I went over, so they gave me like a 2 week, and they were like, "He's good to go," and I went off on my own.
Very nice. So you were on the street. Well, how big of a department was the sheriff's department? How
Now the
many?
sheriff's office we have with the jail, we're in like the 400, 350. I always get it wrong. My wife gets mad. We're like 100 and some change on the patrol side,
Okay.
and we have the jail. So we're at like 300 and plus civilians. So it's decent size. We have 200 or 175, 180,000 people in the county.
Okay. So you spend your time on the street, like what did you say, like 2 years or something like that?
Yeah, I was well, total street time between the city and the county, it was '01 to '05. So four and change.
Okay.
I'm sorry, '06. So 4.5 years, which is I think is perfect. I think you're
Right.
not a real cop, in my opinion, until 5 years. So it was
That's
right at that 4.5, 5 year mark is when I moved, which I
I I
I
had
think
that
is a good number.
conversation with another cop like a week ago. And I said, you really don't, your head is up your ass until you got about 4 or 5 years on the job
Yep,
because
five
you
years is
see
my
people
number.
getting promoted and doing special stuff like a year, 2 years. I'm
It's
like, they don't
insane.
know how to be a cop yet.
We have FTOs at our agency right now. They're 18 months in of the
How can they
entire post
train
career.
somebody that
I have no fucking idea. I have no idea, man. It makes me so mad. After all you know what, and we'll talk about, well, I'll talk about the F2 stuff later. We'll go through my career, but I just, yeah, 5 years, when I know at 5 years, you don't have to call your sergeant anymore and go, what do I do here?
right.
You pretty much got it. Unless it's something crazy, like there's grenades in somebody's trunk. You're like, shit, I don't know. This one, I'm off on this one. What do I do with the
Yes.
grenades? But barring something like that, every call you can handle, you know how to handle, you know the paperwork, you know what the
Yep.
right decision is. So 5 years is my number.
Yeah, that's a good time to promote or go into a special unit or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
firmly believe that.
Yep.
And I think it's a disservice. You know, you see a lot of vice departments do this, especially with a good-looking girl. They'll take
Oh
a
yeah.
gal that's out of the academy, they got a month or two on the street,
Hmm.
maybe, or just finished FTO, And it's like, oh, she'd be perfect. We're gonna put her
Yep.
out as a prostitute, you know. And then they get sucked into that, and then later on in their career, they're gonna promote, or they're going to, you know, get kicked out. They fall out of favor, whatever. Now they're a cop again, and they
Have
are
no idea what they're doing.
clueless,
Yep. Yeah, I watched it
clueless.
happen. I watched it happen. We did that once. We did that once with a
Yeah,
girl. So I've seen it happen.
yeah, it's a complete disservice, and shame on the department for doing that to them. I think, you know,
Yep.
the gal's gonna be like, oh, this is the coolest shit ever. You know, it's like, this is great, and it's like, no, it's not. But whatever. So you get on Vice. Now, was that plainclothes or were you in uniform?
Yeah, we have what's called MACE, Multi-Agency Criminal Enforcement Unit. So it was like 5 or 6 guys from the sheriff's office, um, 2 guys from one city, 1 or 2 guys from another city, and we're not big, but like from all the city. And then we had like an office for like the DEA task force guy, FBI task force guy. So we had an offsite office where we, yeah, plain clothes, and it was like we all had partners, but it was multi-agency when I first started. So it was like we did stuff in the city, the county, and we all worked together because the cities were so small. It was like, what is one guy going to do in a drug unit or 2 guys?
Right.
So they just attached them to us, and we had one big like 10-man unit of
So,
supervisors and detectives.
okay, so you got a 10-man unit, and were the marshals involved in that too?
Back then, we had guys assigned. I did it later on in my career. They weren't really as big as it was. One guy was full time DEA. He never even came around, and he was a task force guy.
Okay.
And then we had like the DEA guys come in, real DEA guys come into ours. But marshals came later on in my career. But
Okay.
they were around if we needed them. Like I remember them coming up for high risk warrants and stuff. But we weren't. That was the only unit we had an ATF guy, we had a DA guy, and we didn't have a marshals guy. So that was the only one
Okay.
that didn't really have a regular. But if we needed him, I remember the guy's name Bill. We would just call Bill and be like, "Hey, we got a high risk," and they would come up.
Okay. Now, so you did you have a Haida,
Yeah,
or
but
was
it's
that
far
part of
away
Haida?
though. Haida was we could go, but Haida's all the way. The closest Haida was like Miami.
Oh,
So that's
really?
2.5 hours. I went to a lot of classes at Haida, and we needed them. We had the resources, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a dead area. So the South Florida Haida office is Miami, which is like 2.5 hours away. And then there's one like Jacksonville. Orlando was a different district. So our district was West Port St. Lucie, Palm Beach. So we went with the Miami Haida guys.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. It sounded Haida-ish because we have
Yeah,
a Haida in Milwaukee.
big. Yeah, we weren't
Yeah.
big enough for that.
Yeah. So okay. So you've got this task force. You're plain clothes. Who are you targeting? Yeah, obviously, are you just doing like street level stuff and kind of build a case off? You know, you stop the white guy that's from the suburbs buying crack,
Yeah, but
and you just go after the bigger fish.
yeah, so I had a real good close friend of mine, Christian Matheson, who is a lieutenant now, and we were partners through our whole career, and he was a canine guy. I got very lucky with 2 informants he gave me. One was a white female and one was a black young male. And I put 8 people in prison for life on drug charges with those 2 informants alone.
Wow.
And so I targeted crack was the thing. So I was a crack guy. I didn't like pills came on about 5 or 6 years into the drug unit. So I did crack, and we eventually, when I got there, we did a wire that I was just a peon. We did a wiretap on an organization. I got to see it, and then I actually years later co-authored and authored my own entire wiretap case. So I got into like going way above just the local dealers. We went out of the country with it.
Oh, wow.
So I went small. I started small, just a nobody, making my crack cases, 2 buys and a search warrant. But I put, like I said, in the first 2 years, I had 7 life sentences for guys that were habitual felony offenders that were just the worst of the worst. And they would sell crack within a school zone or a daycare or one of those enhanced penalties. And
Right.
I was just stacking them away. And I was using those 2 people. They were just, they were the best informants I ever had. One of them, the female, I have no idea what happened to her. It's been years. The young kid, was not a young kid anymore. The black kid is one of the only, he tells me all the time, he's like, "You're the only white dude on earth I trust." And he still trusts me. And it's been 22 years.
Wow.
So, yeah,
We're-
so I just started targeting crack, and then I went into wiretapping. I loved writing those wires. You're listening to phone calls, you're doing the surveillance, the cat and mouse is like, big game of chess. So that was what I really enjoyed the most.
Now, as far as the CIs go, those two CIs, were they working off something, or were you paying them, or what was that?
The female went from working off a crack pipe to
A
putting
crack pipe? That's it?
crack pipe,
That's a
crack pipe.
city
And
ticket,
she
right?
she ended up she ended up at the end of my Um, at the end of I got out in 12 of dope. So at the end of my dope career, she was getting $5,000 a month sometimes from the feds.
Okay.
That's how much she was doing. So she went from just a working off a charge, and like I said, we hit it off, and she was very good. We had very good respect for each other. And then the young male, that was a big call my buddy made. He stopped him with like 19 bags of crack, 3 in the morning, and I was sleeping. He let him go, put in evidence back when we could do that kind of stuff. He kind of just let it go, write a report, put it in his found property. He called me the next morning. He said, and I always trusted this guy. He's a very intelligent human being. He said, I'm telling you, I stopped this kid last night. This kid's going to be the gold mine. I let him go. Make sure you call him. And I've been in contact with that kid since that day. And we've put people in federal prison. We've put people in for
So
life sentences with him as
he didn't
well.
have a case hanging over his head.
No, we had, well, I mean, it was back in, I don't know how you guys did it, but we would do the old like, or else, like, you're going to work for me and this will go bye bye.
Right, right.
And if you don't call me in the week and I don't hear from you, I just go get a warrant for you. That's kind of how I operated. Was they really don't let you do that anymore. They kind of call it like coercion. And I still disagree, but because if you put somebody in jail and everybody in the hood sees them on the fucking website and the booking, they're not going to talk to them anymore, especially white guys and white
Right.
girls. They're like, oh, my fucking crackhead got arrested. I'm not going to deal with them anymore. So I would let them go. I would just write a report, seize the evidence, take pictures, document everything, I put a 1 line report in on this date and time. I conducted a drug investigation, see supplement. And then the supplements weren't public record. So then I would write what happened
Oh,
in
okay.
the supplement and just leave it inactive. They would start working. I would say, okay, you did your 2 deals for me. This case is inactive, and away it went. And they never got charged. So nothing violent crimes, no persons crimes. If you did have, there was a victim, you had to go to jail. There was no leeway. But in a victimless
Right.
dope crime, it was like, who the fuck cares if I take this person to jail for 0.2 grams of crack when they're going to get 5 drug dealers? So that's how we operated.
Did you have to register all your CIs?
Yes, we all documented, registered, had to have a person with you, fingerprint them, run their background, and all that stuff. Yeah, we had a big file.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So you're running and gunning with this Vice team. Did you have a regular partner?
We switched a few times, but yeah,
Okay.
usually worked with the same guy. And ironically, the sheriff now was one of my partners, who we are complete enemies at this point, but that comes later in the story.
Right.
But I was partners with him, and then I was partners with a couple other guys. But man, some of those guys, their intentions weren't good. And I never saw anything. I know some of the stuff you want to talk about was like seeing crooked stuff. I didn't see anything like crazy, but there were just times when I saw things that were just not kosher.
Like what?
And you're just like, why is he like just I remember one of the ones I always talk about is being asked to buy 2 female um analyst jackets, like windbreakers, complete sheriff's office windbreakers
Yeah.
with my buy money. And I'm like, that's
Buy
not what
money's
buy
for
money's
one thing.
for.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. And
for
I'm like,
buying dope. Yeah.
and the guy was like, oh, he's like, yeah, then I got to do a fucking form and I have to put it through the accounts payable. He's like, just buy him the jackets and whatever. He's like, do it and we'll clear it up at the end of the month. So then the end of the month came and I'm sitting there in my form where I, $20 crack, case number, $30 crack, case number, and CI payment, $50 for information. Going down the list and I'm missing like $60. I'm like, how do I put the jackets? He's like, just put CI 127 payment. And I'm like, God damn. And I'm like, but I'm doing like, what do you say to this guy? Guy's been there 20 years. He's a fucking sergeant. He controls
Oh, so he
everything. He
was your
control.
boss.
Yeah, as my boss. I wasn't another guy. I would have never done it if another detective told me to do it. This is the
Yeah.
guy running the whole fucking unit. So I'm just like, all
Oh,
right, man. Like, I know I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, I didn't steal the money. So I'm like, maybe there's something I don't know about. Maybe that's okay. Like, maybe it's okay. So that was the worst I saw. There were some other times where we were on a wire and one of the brothers of one of the suspects got drug in and we went on his phone and I was like, I don't know how they got this PC. Like, I don't know
oh.
how, it didn't seem like he was doing much.
Yeah.
But now we're listening to this guy's phone and I'm just like, one thing I always stood on, I don't care what anybody ever says about me. You can call me anything and I got investigated and we'll talk about that. But one thing he said, I just didn't do anything like that. I could not be nasty to people and make stuff up. And to this day, we're at 1 year and 3 months since I've been retired, been on podcasts 1,000 times. Not one person has come forward and said, I got dirt on Dilks. I know he did this. I know he stole this. I know he planted. Not one. Not one. And the one that did is some crazy psycho chick that it's all on body cam. So she's just fucking nuts. But I'm talking like I put my business out here and it's like I pride myself during my career on I will get you the right way. I
Right.
may sleep in your fucking backyard for 3 nights, but I'm going to get you. And then when I catch you, I'm never going to plant dope. I'm never going to fabricate. I'm never going to make anything up. I'm going to get you the right way. And I stand on that for my character for the day I started to the day I left.
I went to a union Christmas party last night. We had a supervisors union. There's like 300 of us in this union, and a bunch of retirees are there. And I'm talking to a guy that was a fellow sergeant. Now he's a lieutenant, and he grew up on the south side of Chicago like I did. And he said, you know what? The neighborhood butcher found out that I was going to be a cop. I was moving to Milwaukee. I was going to be a cop. And he said, just remember, kid. He's like this old crusty butcher guy from the neighborhood. He said, just remember, you got to be able to brush your teeth in the morning with the lights on.
Yep.
And he
Yep.
said, if you live your life that way, you'll have no problem sleeping.
I agree.
And,
I did a lot of dumb things, but I didn't do anything like that. I did a lot of stupid things that were self-induced, self-inflicted,
right. We all
dumb
have.
stuff. But I
We all have.
never crossed that line, and I never
Nope.
would.
Yeah, planting stuff, doing, it's like I got to play a book. It's the Constitution. I know it sounds corny,
Yep.
but that's if you stayed on those rails, in theory, you had nothing to worry about. Yeah,
Nope.
just
Never. I never did. I never
yeah,
did. Even when they investigated me, I had no problem taking a stand. I was like, whatever you guys want to talk about. Like,
yep.
it just doesn't. It's all good.
So things are getting a little strange in the narcotics land. I'll back up a little bit. What was your personal life like when you were doing all this?
So I was going. So, it, like any other, but I had fucking 4 kids by 2004. So I'm in the dope unit. It's I'm married to the unit. I'm on the CI phone. I'm on here. I'm running here. I'm leaving the house. It was the bad relationship like every other cop probably. I couldn't. I was mentally invested in the job beyond recognition. I didn't really care about. We went on vacations. I took the kids to Disney. We did things, but mentally, I was married to the job. All I
Right.
cared about was dope, narcotics. I ended up getting divorced from my first wife, who all 4 of my children were with her in 2009. So I go through divorce to like normal car, and then fucking foreclosure with money. And um, so it started right there. And then my dad passed away in
Mm,
2011. And that was kind of like the final alcoholism disaster where I started drinking and was pretty terrible there for a while.
wow. And we make bad decisions, obviously, when we're doing that. And I remember
Yeah.
I heard, or you were like on a different show, or maybe it was the Anti-Hero, but you married like a gal a lot younger than you.
Yeah, I
It
did.
kind of like as a bounce
Yeah.
back thing.
That
Was
was
she a
like
stripper? Because
2014.
that's it.
No, she was a
No.
paramedic.
Oh,
Right in the
same
nurse
difference.
paramedic.
Okay.
Right in the nurse. It was I married a nurse first, a paramedic second, and a cop third. So then those are my 3. My wife now is amazing, and everything that led me to this point where I'm at now, I'm great to God that I got here. But I went through the first wife. It was, and I don't blame the first wife. We went through some rough child support and arguments, but completely
Right.
cordial now. We have 4 kids together. At the time, we hated each other, but we're both young and immature and
Sure.
doing dumb shit. And there was nothing really there other than young, immature, and pretty much ruined each other's relation or view of each other at some point where it just it was unfixable. And we're very cordial now. We have no problem. We go to the kids' events together. There's no problems anymore.
That's good.
I don't talk to the second wife. She's still what she is.
Well, you probably weren't married to her for very long.
Like 3 or 4 years, yeah, but
Yeah.
and she had an affair with her boss. So
Like,
talk.
this is, man, I don't care if you're a cop in Florida or Wisconsin or California, man. I hear the same stories
Sounds right.
over and
Sounds
over.
right. That's what we
Yeah.
do, man.
Yes. God. So
Yeah,
you're going
yeah.
through all of this. Your personal life is pretty tough too. And you see people in your like narcotics team, not doing such kosher stuff. And they're crossing some lines that you're not cool with. And then you became the focus of an FBI
Yeah.
investigation.
So what happened was I I'm going through hell. Right. I don't feel like anybody's friends and all that. And during some of those investigations, I bumped into a couple guys I went to high school with. And they weren't great. Honestly, they weren't great guys. They were just in dumb shit. And one of them was he used cocaine a lot. The other one allegedly was growing marijuana. I didn't really get into that with him, but I started like going out in public and just getting drunk at bars with these 2 guys.
And they knew you were a
And
cop.
absolutely. And honestly, I got so much information from them because they knew I was
Oh,
able to get
okay.
so much intel. But I never, to this day, I will never tell you, well, I did all that and hung out with them to get information. I did get information, but I'm never going to play that lie that, oh, I was working double,
Double secret
double
squirrel.
the James
Yeah.
Bond 007. I was a
Right, right.
fucking train wreck. So I was going to strip clubs with these guys, posting all over Facebook. I was living like a maniac. Like I was posting with these two guys I shouldn't have been hanging out with. They were felons. Um, and at some point, somebody got to the feds that, I was in the DA task force at the time, that I was helping one of the guys like criminal enterprise, and I was doing all kinds of crazy shit. And I had no idea that I don't know if it went to the level of a wiretap. I know it got real serious, and I was under full blown FBI and DEA investigation for like a year.
What were they accusing
Um,
you of?
so when it all finally came about, I was dating a girl. Here's how it all really kicked off. I think I was dating a girl, another disaster, one of those fucking miserable 1 year relationships, and the pill mills had just taken off,
Okay.
and so they're rampant. Where pills is the thing. Crack's gone. Pills are everything. Everybody's pill mill. Kentucky. Everybody's in Florida. All the Florida, South Florida. We're the king of pill mills. And one of the guys that was named Zach Rose, his he was one of the main pill mill guys, and he was a patient at the place my girlfriend was working. The girl I was dating, it was terrible, terrible relationship. We had no business being together. And I guess she was paying him, he was paying her money to like pick my brain
Oh my God.
and like listen to what I was talking about. And while that's all going on, um, I've got these other two guys that I'm kind of hanging around with.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm an alcoholic and all this stuff is going on. And they get this wild hair that I'm taking, like I'm the one being paid through this guy. And I get when they finally indicted them all, because I was involved in it. I was involved in the case, and I knew that they were coming. I knew it was all coming down. I was involved with DA Atlanta and all this. So when this guy gets arrested, Zach, he basically fabricates to the feds that he's paying me for information.
Oh,
I was,
okay.
dude, I was so broke at this point in my life. I was broke. I was running out of gas, like trying to get my kids to school sometime. I was broke. I would love to have seen the money or what I benefited from anything, because I didn't. But no, they came full in, and they were following me, surveillance. I heard it all. They were minimized. It was all like a federal investigation, like all this
Wow.
stuff going into me. And really, what I was an alcoholic. I've always said I wish somebody would have came to me and just said, "Dude, what the fuck is wrong?" And I needed help. I was
That was
driving
my next
drunk.
question was, did anybody from your department say, pull you over to the side and say, dude, you're
No,
off the rails? Because I mean, I knew guys that, were occasional drinkers, and I also worked with guys that were severe alcoholics. I mean, to the point where they're DTing at work. You could just smell it coming out of their pores. And back in the 90s, there was no help. You might have that
yeah,
one sergeant that was a good guy. It was, hey, Pat, you got to chill this shit out. People are talking, what can I do to help you, kind of thing. But now we've got a chaplain, we've got, police psychologists, we've got, early intervention, this and that and the other thing. It's almost gone a little too far, I thought, but at least there was something, but there was nothing for you, huh?
no, and it's interesting. The sheriff now, who is a terrible person. It was my partner then. We were close. I was the best man at his wedding. He knew that they were looking into me, and I don't expect him to come tell me. I mean, obviously there's Fed, but at
I
no
would.
point did he ever like, yeah, well, I would too. But at no point did he ever like try to like say, hey man, you're drinking way too much. He actually encouraged it. I remember like a birthday party at his house for me, and I was fucking inebriated, and I can barely remember it. And they let me drive out of there. Like I was fucking wrecked. So all this is going on. I'm hanging out with these guys. I'm going to strip clubs. I'm posting all this online. I have no idea I'm being investigated. And I find out during this thing, like these same guys I told you about that like asked me if it was okay to pay for jackets and stuff.
Yeah.
I find out, and I know now those were the guys that were actually crooks. And I was able to verify it and nobody would listen to me because I didn't know who was who.
Yeah.
That same Zach Rose guy, the female informant I told you about earlier, my 100% A1 day one, worked in a tanning salon with his mother. They were laundering money through the tanning salon. And she
Wow.
told me, she said, hey, that they're laundering all this pill mill money through this tanning salon. We're sending like 30, 40, 50 grand at a time. We're packing recliners. We're putting in chairs. We're sending us all this money all over. Like she had the whole thing. It was an operation. I'm like, holy shit. So I tell the guy, my boss, the guy that told me to write the wrong shit on the paper, I had no idea he was that crooked. And I tell this guy all this stuff, and we get in this meeting, and I'm sitting in this open meeting. There's civilians in there and all that. And he's like, Mike, he's like, tell us about that information you have. And I'm like, no, like, I don't want to talk about that. Like, that's very confidential. It's my informant. And he
Right.
made me talk about this in front of this regular detectives, not the vice unit, just
Okay.
normal people. Under 20 minutes, informant calls. First time in my entire dealings with her, 5, 6, 7 years. You fucking piece of shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you fucking broke the code. And I'm like, what? That a fucking detective just drove here and told the mom that about the money and everything you know, and now I'm getting threatened to be killed by this guy.
Oh,
I just got
wow.
fired, and they like ran her out of there. And I'm like, holy shit! And I know exactly who that was. And I'm like, what was he driving? What was he? She's like, it was a detective. He was driving a Malibu, and I'm like, that motherfucker was in the meeting. So he drove from the meeting straight to the place and tipped the entire organization off that I knew what they were doing.
Oh,
Nobody ever looked into it. Nobody cared. It got brushed under the rug. And ironically, that guy retired years later, and he's now in business with the dude's dad, construction and land clearing. So they were. It's always funny when I got called a crooked cop and investigated. I really know who they were, and I know. And my buddy Jason, I've talked about the podcast we're going to do. He knows. And of all people on this God's earth that vilify or that was able to clear my name and give me information to prove they were lying about me was a federal inmate that went to prison that said, although you chased me around and I followed you around and we were cat and mouse, I stand on business. I did my time because I committed crimes. I don't fuck other people. And I felt the same way. I do my job. I'm going to do it right. And if I can't get you, I won't get you. That man, Jason Votrbeck, was able to clear me personally. Nobody ever listened because I've told this story, but he gave me
yeah.
the jail calls where this dude's like, I'm going to lie about Mike. I'm going to tell him that he was paying me.
Wow.
I'm going to make up. So he got me the calls. They did controlled meets with me, with people in Zach's family. At the end of the day, it culminated in like 2013. I left the dope unit in 12, like 2012, 13-ish. I get a knock on the door on a Wednesday about 9 in the morning. It's the head of DEA, DA analyst, and a massive dude with the FBI. And they're like, we need to talk to you. I was like, come on in. Open the door. And we went in, and I got interviewed for like 9 hours in
Nine
my house.
hours.
Yeah, it was a long, long day.
Did they
nine
read you
hours.
your rights at the
They did
beginning?
not read me my rights, and they did not read me Garrity. They did not. Um, and I told them when I walked in, I said, I don't need, I hope you guys aren't gonna like try to lawyer me. I said, I don't need a lawyer. I'm like, you guys can, we can sit here all day and talk. I said, my mom's right here. If you want my mom, we can sit at the kitchen table. And they're like, no. And I remember it was the funniest interview because if you go back to it, I had a garage built into my bedroom, big ass garage, all nice, done with the Giants. I'm a Giants fan, New
Yeah.
York Giants helmets and all that. They were on the couch, and I was on one of those gaming chairs that sits on the floor
Oh,
and it
yeah.
rocks. And I'm sitting there I'm sitting back like this, kicked back in my chair, looking at 10 binders, all these boxes of documents, analyst, rack of DEA, and an FBI agent. And I'm on the floor fucking kicking it like boxers and a t-shirt. I'm like, let's do it. And I sat there and talked to them for 8, 9 hours.
Wow.
And
Was that all
I had no problem.
recorded, I assume?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And then they did control meets. They did control phone calls. They were on my phone. They were uh, phone records, phone tracking. They were following me. So the old saying, as I always say it, what's the old saying? You can indict a ham sandwich, right?
Now, did
Nothing,
the
nothing came of it.
did this FBI agent say you're under investigation for A, B, and C crimes?
No, they never told me what it was under. They just started questioning me about my relationship with the two guys that I was going to
Okay.
strip clubs with, my relationship with Bo, Zach Rose, my relationship with all the Jason Votrbeck. They brought all these people up. They asked me a ton of questions, and then um, they went and interviewed, like, because my informant, the female, was ride or die. They went to her. They tried to ask her if I was having sex with her. Like, they just tried to fucking throw the bus over me.
Yeah.
And it was like they went to every informant. They pulled now something the sheriff's office I found out later illegally did, which confidential informant files are confidential, even from the feds. And the agency didn't want to give them up, but the feds actually took every single informant paper and every documented informant from our agency and took it to their Fed building and then brought it back. which is a huge problem. And I always thought about this. I think the real people that need to investigate were the two guys I just brought up earlier, my boss and the other guy.
Yeah.
But then they were able to find out who informants were and help them, or tip them that these
Okay.
guys were documented. So it was, people will say, like, even after Ian Bix, that I'm a crook. Like, I'm full of shit. You guys can call me whatever you want. There is a zero physical evidence that I did anything wrong. There's none. And it was reviewed by the feds, kicked back to the sheriff's office, reviewed by the sheriff's office. They said, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. He did a lot of dumb shit, but he didn't commit any crimes.
Did you
So,
ever get interviewed by your department, your department's
nope,
IED?
nope. The last thing I said to the DA and FBI when they walked away, do I need to notify the department that you guys are here? I said, no, we'll take care of it. I
So,
never got questioned, even in an internal affairs investigation, or put in one.
see, that blows my mind. Usually, it starts at the department level, unless it's something so egregious or something so high
Well, they
profile
thought I
that,
was robbing. There's rumors I was like helping try to rob people. It got, the streets went fucking psycho about my name, and it was all the bad guys using that as a way out of the attention from being on them. So now,
sure.
and we fast forward way to the last year where they tried to impeach me on the stand right before I left. Part of the document said there were 14 people that made nefarious statements against me. Well, all 14 of them were fucking drug dealers
Yeah.
and fucking criminals. So what are they going to say? I'm nice? These are the guys I was trying to put in prison the rest of their life. So
Right.
it was like all the statements they got were from people that were subpar pieces of shit. It was never like anybody credible to go, this is him. And later on, I found out that the deputy chief, who was an attorney, said there's no reason to even interview him for internal affairs. All he has to say is what he was doing, which was he was getting information, and he
Yeah.
got all this drug information from these guys. And I said I would never say that because I was out drinking beer. But in reality, I did. I was able to obtain many search warrants and cases and all kinds of intel from being around these guys.
I'm surprised your department, if they're going to gun for you, you know, we have, we used to have a rules and procedure book that was bigger than a phone book for those who remember what phone books were.
Mm-hmm.
And you could find something in there to bone somebody on. And then we had a new chief come and he says, we're throwing that out. Now we're just going to have this pamphlet. It's like guiding principles and all this like real flowery language. And it's more or less, if we want to screw you, we're going to screw you. You're done. And
Yeah.
I'm amazed they didn't try to do something like that to you.
Not a single word
Wow.
ever to this. It came up later. It came up in end of 23, 24, and we can get to that as the story goes. But it came back up. They tried to Brady list me and all that. They failed.
Yeah.
But it all came around. But I never got disciplined, never got indicted, and
Wow. Well,
nothing came. Absolutely nothing came of it. And they
yeah.
looked like fools. I can tell you that. I know people that worked with the DEA and still do, that said they were convinced. They told Washington D.C. we have a crooked cop, maybe a whole crooked unit, and they got all this funding and they did all this fucking investigation. And
And
at
it
the
was a
end,
big goose egg.
nothing happened. So,
Oh, yeah.
needless to
That,
say, none of them talk to me anymore, and they're not real happy with me.
I can only imagine. Yes. So, so, you mentioned before, you worked with the sheriff, you were kind of like on the same unit and you became best friends and that went south. Could you kind of,
Mhm. So after we left, I left the drug unit, and I go back to the patrol, and then I'm like back and forth, criminal investigations, homicide, back to the patrol. I'm kind of back and forth every 2 years. I'm there because I like both, and I would get sick
yeah,
of being a detective. I'd want to go back and do patrol. I'd get sick, but what happened was this goes through. He runs for sheriff in 2020. Wins the election in end of 2020, takes over, and it's like finally, like this guy gets it. Like we had a real good core guys that got him elected and helped him, and I'm like, finally, this is we're gonna go places, and we the place started to really flourish. Everything's going well. He has about a year into it, he decides that he wants to have an affair. This dude was the straightest dude on earth. Had never in a billion years he was the last person I'd pick, and he had an affair with a fireman's wife that blew this community apart.
really?
And I never in a million years thought he would do this.
Hmm.
And he changed. And when he changed was the guys around him were me and these other guys that were alpha males that said, dude, you're a fucking moron. Like, what are you doing? Like, even when he first got caught and then he apologized, we're like, okay, we can beat this. Less than 30 days after his public apology, he gets caught doing it again with the same chick, like 20 days later. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're ruining everything. And then he was gone. He was absent. He disappeared. The agency was being run by other people. This dude was stalking his ex-wife. I did some episodes about that. So all that's going on, and I'm kind of like distancing. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you want. Like, I can't believe you've done this. And he promotes me. I finally got promoted after like 20 years. I make sergeant, and I start to speak out, pretty vocal about the way things are being run, the way he's acting, and that was the IA you've seen me probably talk about. I get put into the most bogus, backwoods fucking IA you could ever imagine for a basic resisting arrest. And I sat in an IA for 6 months, never put on admin leave, never relieved of my supervisor sergeant duties, nothing.
So you're being
And
accused of something?
I'm being accused of use of force, and they actually trumped it
Okay.
all the way to code of ethics and illegal chokehold and all kinds of shit that didn't happen. Um, I'm cleared on everything of the chokehold, and they basically convicted me of group 3 ethics, which is the highest level, because they said I was a danger to the community because I took a guy to the ground, and it was very nonviolent.
Yeah.
I took a guy to the ground using jujitsu. It's all on video. Every fucking second of it is on body cam, and arrested a guy for running his fucking mouth in a crackhead in his front yard because I got in a pursuit with his son, and they were out there screaming and yelling at me, which you can't
Okay.
do.
Right.
So went through and got demoted, and I was like, fuck this guy. Like, he let me, and I didn't never ask for a special favor, but I'm like, there's a difference between, hey man, help me do something wrong. Like, I stole something. Can you get me out of it? There's a difference between that and, hey dude, I'm getting railroaded. Do you mind do you mind using your fucking head here? Like, we've been through life together for
Yeah.
20 years. Like, do you mind just not letting me get fucked?